Everybody has some form of permanent insurance that a friend or family member has sold to them, and frankly, they have no clue why they hold it anymore.
So the question for most people is, number one, why do I need life insurance, to your point? And that's the most important question. The answer may be you don't need any. The second point is, if you do need coverage, how long do you need it? And if you're financially independent when you're 65 and retired, I'm not so sure that you need life insurance coverage. You've already made it.
Age, you want to insure for a loss of income, or make sure that your debts are paid off, or that if you have college plans for your kids, you want to make sure all of that is taken care of, but you want to do it in the most efficient and cost-effective manner as possible. And you don't want to use that policy as your primary way to build and earn wealth. It could be a replacement of loss of income in a family. If a spouse or a husband passes away, you may need insurance for an estate or a legacy in a situation where potentially you have an estate tax burden, and a lot of that estate is wrapped up in a physical property. And when you pass that property on, you owe property taxes, or estate taxes rather, on that amount. And you don't want to have to liquidate or sell the family farm to pay the taxes. That might be a case where you could argue to have a permanent life insurance policy. The most important part when you start understanding insurance is that you're insuring for an event that is unlikely but potentially devastating. And we want to give ourselves a peace of mind for our loved ones, for our goals, for the things that we would like to see happen if something happens to us. We would like to know that there's a financial windfall that is going to assure that those things happen. The reality is, the day you buy insurance, especially if you're young or you're working hard, is probably the greatest need that you're going to have. Every year that goes by that we don't pass away, that we raise our children, that we save dollars for retirement, that we save dollars for college, that we save dollars for that house that we really want to get someday. Every year that goes by, our need for that death benefit decreases till a point to where you mentioned earlier, financial independence. Time has transpired. We've saved dollars, and we are now self-insuring. So having a permanent policy that we're paying a exorbitant premium on doesn't necessarily make sense, considering we have a decreasing need for insurance the longer time goes by. But so the idea should be we should pay as little as possible to insure for that event, make sure that we do the proper planning to understand what that need is and get the proper death benefit in place. And then go about our business and save and do the things that we were going to do anyway, and invest and grow our wealth. But if we're going to buy a permanent policy, we really need to have the hard conversation of, does this make sense to pay these extra dollars? And it may in some cases, but it's very rare. It just doesn't often ring true that you should pay that extra premium for that permanent coverage.
In addition to the premium being really high, so the payment you've got to make to keep that policy every month, the amount that's building up in the cash value account is not liquid. You're not going to be able to get to that money for realistically 10 or 15 years. So if you're hoping to save up for a house or a car or something like that, that money is not available. So that's an issue I see with a lot of people, is they're putting so much money into this policy, but because they're doing that, they're not able to build up liquid savings for their near-term annuities. And it's the case with insurance policies. If you decide to close the thing at some point, which a lot of people do, they decide to get out of them. And I hate that this is the term, but there's something in the business. Have you ever heard of the what's called the idiot tax?
We call it the stupid tax in my family. When I was little, my grandfather used to have us play poker for nickels, and anytime you'd put out pennies, because he didn't want pennies, he'd keep the pennies and call it the stupid tax. So I understand the concept.
Yeah, this is something that maybe it's just inside the industry, but it's the term used for getting out of a bad policy and taking the surrender charge and just ripping the Band-Aid off and moving on. And it can be painful to do, but sometimes it's the right thing to do. But with that said, to your earlier point, there are situations where these kind of policies do make sense. I would say it's the minority of cases. So it's not that they're evil in a scam or anything like that. People just need to be real careful that they know or they're using the right policy for the right situation.
I would agree with that. And the problem, I think, with the environment in which most people end up with these policies is exactly what we started with. You're out of college, you're early in life, you just started a family, and somebody you know and trust is an insurance salesman, so you go to them for advice. And I don't think they're necessarily being vindictive. They're just insurance salesmen. And the old analogy is, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. They have one product that they're going to sell. It pays a very good commission, and it makes sense. And that's the only environment that they've been known to preach. So I think just learning a little bit more rhetoric and being aware of the various ways that you can insure yourself is always a good course of action. And not to just listen to one person, especially if all they do is insurance. I think it's wonderful to get that color and that education, if you will. But be sure that if that's something that you're looking into doing, know there's other ways to go about it, and potentially weigh out which makes the best sense for you at the time.
Thanks for the chat, John. Happy
Yes,
Friday.
sir. Happy Friday. Have a good day.
Talk to you next time. Bye.